Next up, Manuel Walter will present what's new for Frilo.
Yes, thank you very much for the introductory words and for the transition, Ilona. I am happy to take over at this point. A warm welcome to you, ladies and gentlemen, dear customers, to our session. What's new in Frilo? I'm pleased to present to you over the next 20 minutes the new features in version 2026. My name is Manuel Walter. I am the product manager responsible for the Frilo and DC applications, as well as for the ALLPLAN constructions division. I'd like to start with the area of foundations and geotechnical engineering. There is a significant innovation in this area. Specifically, it has to do with the harmonization of individual applications from our portfolio. What is the starting situation? As you surely know, as an existing customer, you are aware that we have several different foundation applications in our portfolio. In addition, through the merger with DC Software, we have taken on even more applications in this area. And the task of this development project was precisely to harmonize all these individual applications into a central application. The advantages are obvious. For you as a user, it is easier. Namely, to switch between the individual applications and make the appropriate selection. And for us, of course, the maintenance effort is significantly lower, especially when we think about the upcoming revision of the new Eurocode. Yes, with the introduction, or rather, with the release of the ALLPLAN version 2026, we will of course also deliver all program versions and all brands in the engineering sector with a new release. This also applies to Frilo, and in this new release, this centralized, harmonized foundation program will then be available. Within this single application, you can directly choose between all foundation types and switch between them instantly. This is a significant advantage, especially if you are not yet sure at the beginning of the foundation design which type of foundation you want to calculate. No additional modules or add-ons are required anymore. By combining the functionalities from DC as well, we have brought together everything from both worlds, Frilo and DC, into one powerful unified program. There are also a few new features that we would like to announce in this context and as part of this update. Among them is the ability to model and design circular foundations, as well as several others. Smaller enhancements include, for example, the calculation of undrained conditions and user-defined material parameters that you can specify. And there are also parametric input options for seismic verification and for punching shear verification. With that, I'd like to transition to the next area of expertise. And now I would like to introduce you to the new features in the field of framework structures and steel construction. In our framework program RSX, there are many small optimizations in the input process, which we have summarized here for you in a clear overview. First of all, structures can now be mirrored in any way during input. And they can then be linked with the existing structure present before mirroring. Another optimization for data entry is the ability to edit multiple support points simultaneously. To do this, you can select several points at once and then adjust their properties together in one go or modify them. In addition, you have the option to copy user-defined load combinations and paste them again so you can edit them afterwards. We have added an overview table for all load case combinations to improve clarity. This enhances transparency. Additionally, you now have the option to sort individual cross-sections in the cross-section dialog and to change and adjust their order. We have also implemented a warning in the cross-section dialog. If you define a duplicate cross-section, you will now be notified and made aware that the corresponding cross-section already exists. In the area of stability supports, we have added a visual preview to the input section. This addition is intended to make data entry easier and transparent for you at this point. In addition, we have made it possible to subdivide member bars that are connected to a load panel in the future, allowing them to be split into multiple member segments. Last but not least, we have added the option in the table inputs to enter formulas for the calculation instead of specifying the exact target values. The next project from the area of program harmonization comes a unified, powerful steel connection program. To this end, we have combined all of Frilo's steel connection detail programs into a single program for design purposes. Options such as fin plate, end plate, splice joint, welded and bolted frame corners, typified connections, as well as the steel angle connection and the splice plate connection have all been harmonized into a single application. When you open the program, you are presented with a selection window as shown in the screenshot, and you can simply choose the type of connection you want to design accordingly. If you do not currently have all of the necessary types licensed, you will already see this clearly indicated by a distinct color in the selection dialog box, as the unlicensed programs are prominently shown in a grayed out fashion. Of course, you can also switch between the different types here. And of course, it is also ensured here that you can open all positions and all details that you created with previous versions within this new application. In addition, the unified program will of course offer the possibility in the future to be coupled and connected more easily and effectively with other applications. Another innovation in the field of steel construction is the addition of new cross-sections in our proven steel column program. We have implemented 4 additional cross-section types there: rectangular flat steel profiles, T profiles, U profiles, and L profiles. With this expansion, we have now implemented all cross-sections described in Eurocode 3 for the design of steel columns. With that, I would like to transition to the next specialist area. And at this point, I would now like to present to you all the innovations in the field of reinforced concrete construction. We will start with a new edition of the Reinforced Concrete Cross-Sections program. We have added new national annexes for you there. These are the national annexes for Belgium, the Netherlands, France, and the Czech Republic. Of course, before that, we already had the German and Austrian national annexes, as well as the annexes for Great Britain and Poland. And we have also implemented the base Eurocode so that we can now offer a very wide range for international projects. At this point, it is especially worth mentioning that with the reinforced concrete cross-section verification, in addition to the usual verifications in the ultimate and serviceability limit states, such as bending with axial force, shear force, torsion, crack width, and stress verification, you can also perform fire design for rectangular and circular cross-sections using the general method. In addition, you can select the analysis of cross-sections with in situ concrete additions and with user-defined materials, as well as the calculation of effective stiffnesses. A new feature is the so-called verification mode. For actions from bending and axial force, we can now activate a verification mode instead of just performing a design. This means that for given cross-sections with existing reinforcement and loading, the load-bearing capacity is checked and a utilization ratio is determined. All of this is done using interaction diagrams, providing engineers with a clear tool when it comes to assessing the load-bearing capacity of existing cross-sections. It should be emphasized that the diagrams are two-dimensional when selecting uniaxial loading, while the interaction diagrams are spatial for biaxial bending. Within the diagrams, you can display multiple load combinations and choose between different modes. For example, this involves increasing the moment and the normal force linearly, or for example, to keep the normal force constant and determine a limiting moment instead. Another new feature is that now the strain is displayed not only for the failure state, but also for the current loading condition. With that, I'd like to move on to the next innovation. With version 2026, there is a new Plus program that replaces the old pre-stressed girder in the Plus series. The program has the same scope as its predecessor, and this means you can simply reload existing projects with the familiar range of functions and continue working on them in the new version. All the special features for calculating pre-stressed girders with immediate bond are still available. Such as, for example, an in situ concrete addition, consideration of assembly and auxiliary supports if necessary, bearing reinforcements designed for openings, and the simplified lateral torsional buckling check. In addition, for the pre-stressing steel, for example, insulation or heat treatment can also be taken into account. features for preliminary design. And the guide with tips in case verifications are not met is also retained in the new program. The Plus interface also brings several advantages, such as interoperability with other Frilo programs, just as you are used to from the Plus environment at Frilo. In addition, a few simplifications have also been made to improve user-friendliness. Another innovation in the area of reinforced concrete verifications is for the strut and tie model program BSM+. There, the design, according to Eurocode, has been implemented directly with all national annexes, just as it is now available for the reinforced concrete cross-section. The application is particularly suitable when design is not possible using standardized framework models, such as those implemented in the console or beam notching, because boundary or application conditions are not met. The user is supported by a detailed verification overview, as well as a guide with general tips. In terms of verifications, node verifications are carried out based on a general procedure. Professor Schleike's method has been implemented for compression struts, tension struts, and bearing pressure verifications at the support. In the area of toolboxes, we have implemented another application for the calculation of unreinforced concrete walls. The aim is to be able to construct predominantly compression-loaded concrete walls without reinforcement, for which we have implemented the regulations from Eurocode 2, Chapter 12, including all national annexes. Compared to reinforced concrete, unreinforced walls are subject to lower construction costs, result in shorter construction times, and also have a better CO2 balance. This brings us to the last point of updates, which also represents a very fundamental adjustment within the Frilo software. With version 2026, we have implemented a new licensing system in our software. Since all customers are affected by this, we would like to briefly highlight the key features at this point. In the future, when you log into the Frilo Control Center, you will see at the top here in the ribbon bar a notice about a required login. You have already been informed in advance about how to log in there. After starting the Frilo Control Center and clicking on this login button, you will be redirected to a single sign-on process, where you will need to enter your customer data that you previously defined. After successful registration, you can access the available license information within the Control Center. At this point, it is important to point out the 3 different license modes. As an existing customer, you have previously licensed individual programs. The license mode behind this is the program license mode shown here. There you will find all individual Frilo applications that you have also previously licensed. With version 26, we will also be implementing new modules and additions. Should you add new modules and additions or are a new customer, then you can select the appropriate license mode here. To summarize, I would like to briefly go through everything once more. Module licenses are smaller program packages that you can purchase starting from version 2026. Edition licenses are Frilo editions, professional or ultimate, that you have acquired starting from version 2026. Everything you purchase before version 2026 can be found under the license mode, program licenses. Additionally, you can view and manage individual licenses in our customer portal, Connect. To do this, log into the Connect customer portal and go to the Manage Licenses section to get more information about the available licenses. The topic of the new licensing system was already explained in a separate webinar in the past. If you missed it, you can find the recording on our website. In conclusion, I would like to point out that all the innovations mentioned are also described in detail on our website. If you would like to be involved in future developments, we would greatly appreciate your active feedback. To do so, please register at the email address provided here, including a contact person and the subject Customer Feedback Development Projects. We will then be happy to contact you in advance in the future to discuss planned innovations with you. With that, I would like to sincerely thank you for your attention and wish you all the best with the new version 2026. Much success in your daily work.